customer. How the hell would Bromley Marks Pharmaceutical Corporation, how would they be able to function if vampirism is cured? As far as I can tell in the film, they seem to be like the largest corporate entity, at least on that continent. So, it's about protecting business, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, moving on with the film, as Edward deliberately taunts Bromley to prompt him to bite him, we realise that Edward's cure works on vampire bites to turn the vampire human again. It's almost like this baptism of fire gives you a permanent immunity from vampirism itself because you've faced the light. And this is one thing that is another sort of like allegory. Once you've inoculated yourself, with reason and against delusion, it's very, very, very hard to go back to sleep, as it were. There's situations where we find ourselves having to take the choice between what is right and what is supported by the system, and when we adopt an objective measure, as it were, to assess how we can live our lives, then the correct choice becomes obvious. And when we educate ourselves to actually look for the objective things, then the subjective things become laughable to consider. That's why there's a permanent inoculation from this vampirism element in this film. Once you've seen the light, you can't go back. And this is punctuated by Elvis quoting the real Elvis when he says, "The truth is like the sun. You can shut it out for a time, but it ain't going away." And that does illustrate that the revolution, as it were, of humanity taking Earth back was probably an inevitability. Because vampires, they can't really sustainably live. I mean, for one thing, they can't even survive 50% of the day, so they have to go out in these subwalk systems and day drive systems where they're shielding down all the windows and they have to drive through by using camera feeds in their cars. But yeah, it's the idea that light and truth will always come and find you, no matter where you go. But yeah, I mean this continues on in this bloodbath ending where both Bromley and Frankie, who also becomes newly humanized, they offer themselves up. Well, Bromley doesn't offer himself up; he's tied to a chair in an elevator. But Frankie offers himself up, so the others can escape, because he's like one human surrounded by starving vampires. What's going to happen? Well, it's a weird sort of causal chain that happens, because loads of vampires descend on him, start feeding on him, and then they turn human, and the vampires that didn't feed on him realise they're human, that those vampires feed on those humans, and it just eventually escalates till none of them are left, none of the soldiers are left. So I'd say that this whole film I mean, we're coming to the close of this now, but I'd say that this film really, it's about, the catharsis of realizing light and truth will set you free. And as long as you know how to embrace the awakening process properly, don't take it for granted, and don't try to spoil it in any way. Just let the truth speak for itself, because that's really all that should be done with truth. That's all that needs to be done with truth. Truth doesn't need to be gilded or any of that stuff. It doesn't. There's no point. There's no need to gild the lily. Truth is what it is, and it's up to us to recognise whether we should pay attention to it or not. But I just thought I'd add my sort of insights into that. Not going to be a terribly long show today, but yeah, I mean, let me know what you guys think. I'm sure there's probably, because there are quite a few films that I want to review, and I'll tell you what, just to fill some more time, I'll give you some examples of some of the other films that I want to review. One of them is obviously the Alien saga, because I've been obsessed with those films ever since I was 7 years old. But a long-running theme in those films is essentially Ripley's struggle against Weyland-Yutani Corporation, and her trying to stop Weyland-Yutani from keeping their biological weapon. But I thought that would be a good exercise to sort of like run through all the 4 films there. Other films I was going to do, or that I am going to do. So also, if you like the reviews that I do, then obviously if I tell you what films I'm going to do, then yeah. And if you don't like spoilers, because I spoil the hell out of everything, you can, if you haven't seen any of these films, then you can. One of them I'm going to do is A Bug's Life. I'm calling that Class Warfare. Another one is Harrison Bergeron. Now, this is one film that isn't as well known. It's starring Sean Astin, and it's a very interesting view into a possible future where there is essentially forced normalization of people, both physically and especially psychologically, where they have to wear these headbands on that actually restrict their intelligence, so that everyone tries to aim for a sort of average, like a sort of a low average intelligence. But that's a good film. I thought I'd call that one Designs of Dystopia. What other films was I going to do? Total Recall. I think when I do that one, I think I'm going to do a comparison between the original Arnold Schwarzenegger film in the 80s? I think it was the 80s that was made. 87? I could be wrong. But I want to compare it also with the 2012 remake, because I actually prefer the 2012 remake. Better special effects, better looking women, Not that Sharon Stone's a dog. But anyway, moving on. Other films, The Village. That's an interesting one, because I've read about Gedanken experiments that this film's plot is modelled on. Other films: V for Vendetta, Fight Club, Full Metal Jacket, I, Robot, Scum, I'm thinking of doing both the 1977 and the 1979 versions of Scum, particularly because there's a character in there called Archer, and essentially Archer is basically what I would be like if I was in Borstal prison, you know, just trying to piss off the governor in my own way, and you know, just living life my own way. But yeah, there's a couple more. If you haven't seen any of those, then do make sure you see those. That is if you don't like spoilers. If you do like spoilers, then don't watch any of them yet. But anyway, I thought I'd just add my thoughts onto there, and how, I mean, I do really like the film. It is an enjoyable film. If you don't mind, because the gore does get really over the top towards the end, because it's really just a bloodbath of vampire soldiers feeding on each other and ripping each other's bodies apart. But if you don't mind that sort of thing, I would recommend it purely for its allegorical content of how it's a very stark reality that infinite growth and infinite consumption in a finite environment is not mathematically sustainable. There is, as I keep saying in all my other rhetoric, there's only one other thing that exists that behaves that way. We call it cancer. Okay? So, having bored you enough, I'm going to close out this podcast now. Not sure what I'm going to do for the next podcast. I'll probably be bringing you another film review. I might be bringing you an interview. I don't know yet. But please, by all means, check out my YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/AAUTZM. That's my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. I've got one of my short films out already. I'm going to be making 2, possibly 3 more short films. So altogether, it's going to be about, a maximum of about 15 or maybe 20 minutes altogether once I finish it. But I don't want to give away too much about it. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting, and each film is going to have some text in the screen, kind of like what Pyrrhic Victory had towards the end. I'm going to have like dialogue that's alluding to more elements, because I've thought of a huge elaborate plot for this, and just doing little shorts to just like tease out little bits of information. But yeah, that'll keep me occupied. But yeah, by all means, check out my YouTube channel, subscribe, check out this podcast on talkshoe.com if you haven't already. And also, this podcast was brought to you by our very wonderful sponsor by the name of Printernet, the paper proxy for your internet needs. So by all means, get on that, guys. Get on that. Seriously. If you wanna make a quick buck, I know a lot of people who just update their Facebook statuses for free. Nah, you don't want to do that for free. You want to get paid for that, don't you? Yes, you do. So, check that out, guys. Find your local carrier pigeon. Get the word on this. Get in this. Get some money. Get paid. Because we all need to keep the money series system going, don't we? Don't we? Do we? I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, guys. And I hope you guys have a wonderful life. And take care. Bye-bye.